Hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and this is all the leftover clips that I've got from my time with the KAP-40. I had a bit of a productive week last week, and I'm almost at the point now where I'm caught up, which is nice. But, well, the temperature, seems to have got awfully hot the last week or so in the UK. And, well, all of my productivity gains are starting to go out the window. But that doesn't matter so much, because we're nearly at the end of the series, and that's good. That's a cause for celebration. I think at this point in time I have but 2 weapons to get gold, 3 weapons to actually record footage for, and a couple of attachment guides as well. But the good news is, after a couple more sessions, maybe a weekend or 2 more, I should be completely done with Black Ops 2. That is to say, the portion of playing the game, which is nice, because I don't hate the game, but sometimes playing it can be annoying, Like, especially where you have to perform and get clips. That's certainly not the favourite part of the job that I like. So yes, the surge of last week has very much brought us into the end game. So we've got about 15 minutes of clips. There's a particularly nice streak at the end, but otherwise, let's get on with the questions. NickVo011 says, have you ever considered taking questions for your bonus videos from Twitter or Facebook? Maybe using a specific hashtag like Xbox Ahoy Bonus? I've certainly considered it, but there's never really any shortage of comments to respond to. And I kind of, on some level, I like reading the YouTube comments, simply because it keeps me in touch with the audience's response to any given video. And this lets me get a better sense of what people want, and, well, it's not a perfect measure. I mean, I don't really sort of add any major weight to YouTube comments. It's nice to sort of read a direct reaction. But anyway, yeah, the comment sections are full of all sorts of queries, questions, that sort of thing. And it's also a chance for me to respond to any sort of, anything that demands a response, really. So I suppose I could put a call out for questions on Twitter, but I really don't need to. I'm absolutely fine for inane questions. Thank you very much. 12 Vietnam asks, hey Stu, did you ever play any of the Elder Scrolls? Also, what do you think of Elder Scrolls Online? My introduction to the Elder Scrolls series was with Oblivion. I think I first played that on PC. I then eventually picked it up for the Xbox, and I had a second playthrough of it. And of course, since then, I have gone on to play Skyrim. And yes, I do quite like the series. Yes, I like the series well enough to sink many hundreds of hours into it, so there's that. And I suppose it's kind of a shame I didn't get in with Morrowind, because, well, it's a little bit dated now, but back in the day, that would have been pretty good fun for me, I think. But yes, I like the series. I'm pretty keen to see what comes after Skyrim. And I suppose you could consider the Elder Scrolls Online to be the successor, but it's kind of not really. It's not part of the main series. It's different. It's done by a different studio. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'm kind of guarded. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of MMOs. Kind of the same way that I'm not a huge fan of heroin. I'd probably like it if I tried it, but I'd probably like it so much it would consume my life. Which is, I've never touched World of Warcraft or anything like that. I am quite honestly terrified of any game that will quite happily suck up weeks, months, years of your life. And I appreciate Call of Duty is kind of a time sink in a similar sense, but at least Call of Duty is a hateful game, which is kind of self-limiting. I mean, you hear tales of people, doing World of Warcraft raids that last for 12 hours plus. But, after a few hours of Call of Duty, you're thinking, you know what? I'm done with this game for a week or so, I think. So yeah, I'm fairly guarded to the idea of an MMO. Although my love for Oblivion, my love for Skyrim is kind of making me think, well, maybe I should check it out. Just give it a month, give it a trial. But I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how it reviews. So yeah, I don't know if I'll play the Elder Scrolls Online, but it's definitely on my radar. Mr. Schneegler says, no diamond pistol gameplay. Afraid not. I actually got to Prestige 2 maximum level before I attained gold with the KAP-40. So by that point, once I'd unlocked gold, there was no incentive for me to play anymore. However, of course, if you've seen the dual-wield attachment guide, you'll notice an abundance of diamond gameplay in there, so there's that, yes. I have definitely attained diamond pistols now. And you can pretty much guarantee that every time I equip a pistol now, it is going to be diamond encrusted. Not because I particularly like the camouflage. I mean, it is gaudy, it is ugly, but I do like what it represents. For me, it represents, well, the end of the series, the sort of the culmination of, 40 plus weeks of hard work. Not to mention the fact that I've gone about getting diamond camo the hard way. Pretty much the longest route to diamond camo for any tier of weapon is to take this circuitous route through the unlock order. But it does all come together at the end, which is nice. Steve Azencio asks, which is your favourite secondary? You know, in terms of overall effectiveness, it pretty much has to be the KAP-40. I don't think any other secondary really matches it as far as standalone effectiveness. I mean, it's the only automatic option, it's got a fantastic rate of fire, and it's a 3-hit kill at close range. It's, by most primary weapon standards, it's really good. I mean, sure, the semi-auto options have a 2-hit kill, but that's, well, it's of limited use, really, and it's, well, I find the automatic weapons to be much more consistent, particularly the ones with a high rate of fire. Otherwise, the 5.7 is not so bad. That's definitely my favourite semi-automatic option. The larger magazine, lower recoil when compared to the KAP-45 makes it more consistent, you know? Martin Nielsen says, ahoy, you've been talking about visiting Denmark. What do you want to see and taste there? Well, I'd quite like to go to Copenhagen. I've mentioned that before. The principal reason for that is, well, it's not only the capital, it's also the home of brewer Mikla. They're probably one of my favourite brewers. Certainly my favourite Danish brewer, that's for certain. And I'd quite like to go and visit their bar. And I'm a fan of cosmopolitan holidays. I like to see cities. I mean, it's the cities that tend to be more forgiving to people who don't speak the language. You can always find somebody who speaks English in a major city. I mean, yeah, sadly my knowledge of Danish is less than spectacular, but I'm pretty certain I could get by in Copenhagen. Otherwise, I'm also kind of looking for places that I would quite like to live in maybe at some point, but sadly that is unlikely to happen because the girlfriend is quite firmly rooted to England, I feel. She doesn't want to move too far away from family. But part of me wants to move to some far-flung European city. I can kind of envisage myself having a nice townhouse in somewhere cosmopolitan, like a sort of bohemian trip, you know? Somewhere with a good beer culture. So maybe Belgium, maybe Denmark, maybe Germany, maybe Austria, maybe the Czech Republic. Somewhere like that, somewhere, you know, fundamentally pleasant to live. And I could while out my days on whimsy doing whatever work takes my fancy, whether it's writing scripts for videos or producing video games or even filmmaking or something like that. It doesn't matter, as long as it's a sort of a multimedia blend of creative pursuit, that would be enough to entertain me. So yeah, that's kind of my romantic European escape plan, which probably won't come to fruition. I'm probably going to stay in the UK. But you never know. And, you know, should I become inordinately wealthy and choose to acquire a second home, then I might very well buy a townhouse somewhere in Europe. That would be nice, I think. I would enjoy that. So this is kind of why I have all these little desires to travel to some of the cities of Europe, and it's because I'm scouting out locations, you know. I don't need too much to keep me happy. I just need somewhere peaceful, somewhere quiet, somewhere where I can get some of the comforts that I'm accustomed to. I suppose most importantly of all, a good internet connection. That's really all I need. A5S K1CKer asks, I'd rather you get a few decent kills with the weapon with the class you recommend to show how effective the class really is, rather than using various other classes to show your skill and kills you've chained together. Do you agree? Not really. The principal reason for this is because I don't have the class decided upon when I start recording, because I haven't really used the weapon until I actually start to use the weapon. And to save time, I'm not going to play for a few hours with the weapon, then start recording. I'm going to start recording as soon as possible. So that's what I do. I start recording right away, and I might have an idea for a class build, but it's something that I evolve. And of course, I have to go through all of the stupid challenges as well. I have to go 150 kills without perks, 150 kills without attachments. And I normally do those challenges separately, just so I retain some degree of effectiveness, and I can try out different attachments and different perk loadouts more effectively that way. So what you're seeing is really my experience with the weapon, rather than my experience with the class that I ultimately recommend. Because I'm of the mind that impressive clips are fundamentally more entertaining than clips that are technically accurate. I'm thinking, you know, if I ever do another Call of Duty series, that maybe I shouldn't recommend a specific class loadout. Maybe I should just have pointers. I don't know. If I did that, I could just play free-for-all with, you know, all of the perks and the attachments that I like. I could have quick draw on every time, dexterity. And I don't have to sort of, you know, worry about getting a claymore kill if I plan on recommending a claymore, stuff like that. But I mean, I do try and match up the gameplay to the recommendations. I mean, I might not be using the exact class that I recommend at any given time, but when I talk about a specific attachment, I do try to make sure that I'm actually using that specific attachment. And I think 95 to 99% of the time I am. But yeah, anyway, like I say, in future, probably not going to place as much emphasis on recommending a fixed loadout. It makes my life easier and it's going to reduce the amount of complaining in the comment section. I mean, I probably will still put together a complete class loadout for those people who want it, but I'm gonna sort of emphasize it less. Mr. Man 87100 asks, thought the class would be a dual wheel build. Did you not want to do another dual wheel build as you already did one for the B23R? Pretty much, yeah. I did want to go for a diverse set of loadouts, and well, the Sapper class with the KAP-40 was kind of interesting, I thought. But to tell you the truth, I'm not really a huge fan of dual wield on the KAP-40s, at least not as a standalone weapon. I think you trade off too much of your mid-range ability, especially after the nerfs. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Stu, you recommended them for the Ballista, and with the Ballista, I was really grateful for the dual KAP-40s, because especially with fast hands, you just whip them out and spray them down, you know? But as a standalone weapon, they just don't work as well as they should. I love extended clip on the KAP-40, and I love the suppressor as well. So that pairing kind of naturally fed into a stealth build. And the fact that the KAP-40 pretty much demands scavenger when you're using it as a standalone, that kind of tied into an equipment heavy build, because if you're going to use scavenger, for maximum synergy, you want to be using your equipment slots as well. So that's how the class came together. I mean, dual wield isn't bad if you're using them as a backup weapon, particularly with a sniper rifle. But otherwise, standalone, I wouldn't really go for it. Obey the Giant asks, hey Stu, how do you like your coffee? Ideally, I'll just take it as an espresso. I mean, that's pretty much the ultimate expression of coffee, isn't it, really? For something a little longer, I'm not too averse to a macchiato, or I suppose a cappuccino, you know, depending on where I am. But in general, if it's good coffee, I do try and avoid milk. Now, if we're talking instant coffee, then to take that sort of instant taste off, I will have a splash of milk. But under no circumstances will you find me adding sugar to any sort of coffee or anything like that. I mean, if I want sugar in my coffee, I'll have a couple of biscuits, thank you very much. A True Gamer 12373 says, do you ever respond to comments? Man, you suck! Well, I guess somebody doesn't know about this channel. Let's all point and laugh. As far as actually replying to comments on the videos, like as a YouTube comment, I don't really like doing that. It's annoying for a number of reasons. Like, first and foremost, I think it alerts pretty much all of my subscribers to the fact that I commented on a video. Now, I could change that, but I don't know. I mean, I think that kind of defeats the purpose. Second of all, there are usually more comments than I can possibly reply to, and once I reply to more than two, the other replies are they're buried in the mass of comments and hardly anybody will see them. And on a busy video comment stream, everything just kind of drops off the bottom eventually anyway after an hour or two. So, as far as exposure is concerned, it is far better to actually do videos like these and address any sort of questions in public, because everything else in terms of comments is just lost. I mean, it might work if they had better threading on the comments. It would be all right, but I don't know. It's not my preferred way to respond to comments. I mean, I'm not entirely averse to doing it, but as far as addressing a larger audience with a question that might be asked multiple times, doing something like this much better. Scarin MD asks, Stu, have you tried mead? If so, do you enjoy it? I do not mean commercial mead, of course. I have had a few commercials, and the only decent one is Dunstmjord Viking Blood. I'm speaking more of a homebrew, if you will. Sadly, I haven't had too much in the way of mead. The only one I have tried is a commercial brew, of course, which is basically just honey-flavoured white wine. What was it? It was an English one called Harvest Gold, which I have to say I wasn't a huge fan of. I would quite like to try an authentic mead, although, having said that, I'm not a huge fan of honey, so I don't know how much I'd like it. Hail the User asks, movies or video games? Definitely video games. I'm very much a fan of interactive entertainment. Mark V. Spartan asks, Stu, I'm a bit curious at the beginning of the video. At 50 seconds, you say the round caliber depicted in the game is the 40 Smith & Wesson. However, the render on the side of the gun says it uses the 45 ACP round instead. Yes, it does. Yes, it does in fact say 45 ACP on the side. I have a suspicion that the name of the weapon was changed during development. I think it might have originally been called the Card, or maybe even the KAP-45. It seems like they might have changed the name at some point to avoid confusion with the TAC-45, because of course the TAC-45 is another 45 caliber weapon. So the name KAP-40 kind of implies it's a 40 caliber weapon, but the markings on the side say it's 45 ACP, so there's a contradiction there. And as far as, you know, which one is correct, it's difficult to say. I mean, ultimately it's a video game weapon. It doesn't actually fire any bullets at all. It is only an illusion. But the name certainly implies 40 Smith & Wesson. It's just the texture that says otherwise. So, difficult to say. Difficult to say. Doesn't really matter. There you go. Proashek Ryan asks, Stu, I see you play with Spectacle Bear and Decap, etc. How did you meet them? Those guys, and in fact the majority of the guys that I play with, I actually met through Reddit. Back in the days of Modern Warfare 2, the Modern Warfare 2 subreddit was it was the perfect size. It was only maybe a couple of thousand people, of which, you know, maybe 100 people or so played regularly. And of those 100 people or so, you know, we kind of formed smaller groups, and some of those people I still play with today. Anyway, we're on the final kill cam, so this pretty much wraps up the KAP-40 bonus footage. Next up is the SMR bonus footage, I suppose, which I don't know when I'll record that. At some point. Maybe when it's less warm. So, coming up this week, we have the M8A1 weapon guide coming up on Friday. And we've also got the variable zoom attachment guide going on Sunday. The week after that, we've got the ballistic knife, which I've already recorded with, already got diamond. Not as bad as the assault shield, that one, but it was kind of a pain nonetheless. Other than that, I've got a few other things in the oven cooking away. Once I finish this series, I'll be looking to sort of tie off some loose ends, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, until next time, farewell.